Just, they're all sitting up like this,
Yeah.
and their hair is being blown.
And then
One of them looks up and sees a lizard, and he's like, "Oh my God, there's a lizard!" And they're kind of sitting there going like this.
And I know we're looking at like actors here,
But it happened.
It happens.
Hey, welcome to Screen Time, the channel where we watch movies from our past and revisit them and see how we feel, or watch new content afresh.
Absolutely.
And if you like this kind of chit-chat content, feel free to like and subscribe.
And this is a fresh one for us.
Yes, this is well, it's not a fresh one for me. I've seen it once before.
Have you?
Yeah,
Okay.
but it's a fresh for you.
It was a fresh for me, yes. Yeah. And that is
Society of the Snow.
Yes.
Yeah.
On October 13th, 1972, an Uruguayan plane crashed in the Andean mountain range.
Quite a tough watch.
Well, yeah,
week.
this is a 2024 film, and it tells the true story of the Uruguayan rugby team who charter a flight to Chile, and it crash lands in the Andes. And they are trapped there for, I think, 3 months.
72 days.
Yeah.
72
days.
Yeah. From
And
October to December.
that's right.
In 1972.
And it tells the story of their survival, well, some of their survivals. So, wow.
It's the only way I can really. That's it. That's the end of the. That's the end of the chit chat. Just to breathe out.
No, I mean this. Yeah. I found this fantastic.
It's fantastic. It's fascinating.
Yeah. It's disturbing.
It's disturbing. It's shocking. And also, I mean, the strength of character of some of every single one of those survivors.
Yeah. The quality of the filmmaking.
Yes. Absolutely.
The sound design.
I mean, this had been told before in the film Alive.
Yes.
But I mean, I think you think the same. It was very Hollywood style. I mean, it was still engaging at the time, but this I think is it's a really good update.
I think yes, and I think the style of filmmaking has changed dramatically.
Yeah.
And I think on pivotal scenes like the crash, the visual effects on this just are so realistic. The original Alive movie always felt a bit comped in and a bit kind of like you saw the lines around them as they were kind of,
Yeah.
Anyway, we can talk about that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
where would you like to start?
Well, let's.
There's quite a lot to talk about.
There is a lot to talk about. I mean, I love the very first setup. They're on the rugby pitch and they're saying, like, pass the ball to their strongest player. They assume it's their strongest player. And what I thought was really clever about this is that there's a narrator.
Yes.
And you're like, oh, okay, so who's this narrator?
Numa.
Yes, we didn't know initially who the narrator is, and we realised then it's Numa.
Yeah.
Who's the narrator. And like several other films in the past that have a narrator, that's one of the characters in the show or in the film, they don't see it through to the end.
Yeah.
I know I'm not coming back.
They die halfway through the movie, and it's a bit of a shock to you as a viewer. So I thought that was incredibly effective.
It was, yeah. I mean, there were a couple of moments where I thought we were going to lose him because, he was one of the people that was, I mean, there's a lot of, from people from the outside, there's a lot of controversy in terms of how they had to survive. And one of those moments is him deciding if he should eat.
Eat it. It's easier with snow.
No, thank you. I'll be okay.
And so you go through that with this character. You know, he's becoming incredibly weak. He's one of the last people to sort of decide whether or not he's going to eat in order to survive. And so you go through that with him. And I think it's a really important thing, because it kind of gets you through that as to the thought process that people would have had to have taken to do that, you know. And then obviously you go through the second moment with him where you know that he's injured.
Numa, you okay?
And he's gradually, you know, becoming less and less able.
Exactly. So you're introduced to a multitude of characters. It's very difficult initially to keep track of who everyone is. And I think it's as the film progresses, because the numbers start to dwindle, you start to focus more on some of the individuals, and it becomes easier to understand who they are and whatever. But that initial section where you're at the rugby and then you're in the church and they're trying to convince Numa to come along. He doesn't want to go, and they convince him to come along on this chartered flight.
This may actually be the last trip we take together, you know?
You trying to make me cry, man?
When they're on the flight, that's when things really start to sort of, you know, there's a real contrast. There's real sort of jollity. There's excitement from the team. You know,
there's the camaraderie, isn't there? It's like, you know, people are throwing balls around, and there's some people that are scared of flying. There's some people that are really knowledgeable, and you get
some exposition.
You get some information as to how they would approach, you know, going through the Andes, the different airflows, and
hot air from Argentina.
Yes, exactly, and that they have to go along the mountains and cut through, and then they end up there, and then you're in Chile. And you hear that it's only a few minutes.
Yeah.
And
because they're already on their descent, aren't they? Into Chile. I mean, pilots are saying we're preparing for landing in Chile.
Preparing for landing.
Attention passengers, please fasten your seatbelt. In a few minutes, we'll be landing in Santiago.
And then suddenly they hit this turbulence.
Yeah. And from that moment, I was immediately struck by the sound design on this. Because it wasn't realistic. It had a synthetic sound to it. It was really synthetic, which wasn't jarring at all.
No.
But what was clever is that there was no music during this section at all.
It was all effects.
And they used the sound of the airplane to increase the tension during the shot. So the engine's like, and then it goes, and it just goes, and it gets louder and louder and louder. So it's like, it's almost, this tension of sound.
Yes.
And then there's that where he's looking out the window and you can see the mountains going past the window. And then suddenly you get a flare of sunlight and his pupils...
And it's suddenly very quiet at that point.
It goes immediately quiet.
Really quiet.
Which is so clever.
And you think, oh, are they out of it?
Yeah.
And you realise the plane is probably like this.
But his eyes, his pupils retract for the brightness of the sun, and then suddenly, bang, like that. And the plane is like, the back gets pulled off, and they're just suddenly in this absolute tormenting chaos.
I mean, just they're all sitting up like this, and their hair is being blown.
It's so realistic.
Yeah. What I love about love is not the best word, but the scene and the way it's done. You have a lot of quick cuts.
Yeah.
What's happening is it's really quick and very powerful cuts. So, people get impacted into seats, people get thrown out. You see some of the seats get pushed.
Concertina together.
Pushed into the people, and so people are getting crushed.
And you see quick cuts of bodies.
Quick cuts where you see feet getting thrown forwards and then ankles breaking. And it's so quick, but it's like, and because of the loudness and just the quick noise of the sound effects, it really it's jolting you. You're getting hit with all of this, and it really emphasizes the impact.
all of these moments, and it makes it horrifying.
Yeah, it's a horrible sequence. It's so realistically done, and I was so impressed with the fact that there was no music during that section. The film itself is actually really sparse of music. There are key moments, and it's usually on an emotional death or a high event.
We went up to look for the tail of the plane without telling anyone, with no plan.
That something's going to happen event-wise.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, straight after the crash, it's just shouting and screaming and people go, I'm going to die. And, you know, it's just all of it. It's just commotion.
Again, the sound is actually quite synthetic. They've got lots of sort of like the playing of the metal and the cooling down of engines and, you know, things like that. And so it feels really present. You feel really present in it. Also, like the reveal of where they are. Initially, it's really close. It's really to aid in the confusion and whatever. It's really short focus. It's like everything's very tight focus here and blurry. Everything else is blurry. It's disorientating to watch. Like, what is going on? Who is that? Where is that? What is that? It's just that you're in there with them. Experience this absolute chaos. And then there's a moment where one of them gets out of the plane, because it's literally just half of a fuselage left. Yeah. And they come out of the plane and you see this immense scale. And there's a pullback. And the pullback is like, and you realize how insignificant they are against this huge environment. Yeah. And the reality of like, oh my gosh, look at that.
Yeah, I mean, you actually see that. You see that plane and you see where they end up right at the beginning of the film. Because at the beginning of the film, there's some aerial shots of the Andes. Yes. And then you see the wreckage, but it's far that you actually don't really know what that is. I mean, if you know the history, then you know, and you know what you're watching, then you know what you're looking for. Yeah. Because then it cuts to the rugby match. Yes. But you do get a little sight of that, and so of course you're returning to that.
I mean, there's because I was jotting down lots of little notes as you go along, and there were just one of the pilots is still alive at the beginning, right at the beginning, and he's dying, he's coughing up blood, but they can hear him, and he mentions that we're past Curacao.
What do you mean?
Yes.
We're past Curacao. Is that important? Is that important? Do we need to know that? And I guess it means that they're pretty close to, but, you know, and then he says, may God be with you. Yeah. And you just think, oh, no, this is not good, you know.
May God be with you.
We were talking about sound design, and since we're talking about that, there is another moment where the sound, it was really quite obvious to me, but it was still well done. There's a part where there's the avalanche. And when the avalanche comes through and they all get, you know, buried, it's the sound of like the cracking, and it's the numbing of the sound, you know, and it's like you can't hear, it's all very muffled. It really made me feel quite claustrophobic. Yeah. And that again really emphasized the feeling of that scene. It was, and as soon as somebody came out, suddenly it was all clear again. But it was shouting, it was screaming. It was like, get this person out.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the way it was shot as well was really, really brilliant. I mean, you had clever use of drones. You had clever, you know, the focus of stuff, the framing of things as well. There's one scene where I think it's quite a calm shot, but it's a drone shot looking directly down as they're dragging bodies out. They're dragging bodies out and they're laying them in the snow. And they've done that as like a very sort of composed shot, because then they list the dead to the right as they're doing that. And then there's other scenes where they're almost trying to disassociate as well as the characters are trying to disassociate with the fact that they have to eat humans in order to survive. And the first time that happens, you know that one of these characters is going out to basically start cutting on one of the bodies. And someone is viewing that happening through the porthole of the... So it's like this frame around it, and they are away from it, on the other side of it.
Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Yeah.
And they're watching through the frame. And quite early on, quite a lot of that, because obviously there's a major discussion between faith and reality of what the situation that they're in. And there's a divide in the camp as to, we can't do that. We can't survive more than 3 weeks without having any food.
Yeah.
We have to do it. And there's this whole debate about it. And we're deliberately, as viewers, almost being disassociated to what's happening. And they actually say it. They say I can't remember the characters' names, but they were twins who were the ones that were going out to actually cut on the bodies.
Yes, yeah.
And it was done in secrecy so that when the food arrived, there was no way of knowing who.
Vito chooses the bodies, and they cut them up in secret.
Yeah.
So you couldn't...
Yeah. It was only that there was one person, it was one of the brothers.
Yes.
Would do it and then would hand it to his other brother.
Yeah.
So he was the sole person, and they did make a point in the movie that they had to deal with a lot because they knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
That's how they keep the ones who eat sane.
Definitely.
Yeah. And they took that responsibility on.
They did take a shot of one of the brothers cutting, but again, you saw the action in the reflection of his sunglasses. So you never actually you only saw the aftermath. You only saw the bits of meat.
Yeah.
But you didn't actually see...
the process.
The process. And you don't need to see that.
I don't need to see that.
You don't need to see that. And they realise that as filmmakers, that we don't need to see the graphic, because then it becomes smart. It becomes kind of like... Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I think also...
disrespectful in some ways?
It would feel disrespectful, and also it kind of takes you on a different avenue on the movie.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
It becomes schlocky.
Yeah, you don't...
And it didn't need that, because the event itself of having to do that is the last resort.
Yeah. But I agree with you. I think the porthole or the window, it was like looking into a different world for a moment.
A different realm,
because he was sitting on the other side of the line at that point.
Yeah,
that character was.
Yeah.
And so it created this segregation where you had that going on, and he was disassociating himself from it for that moment.
Yeah.
And there was a few moments where he would look out of the window, and, when they were deciding about going, there was the argument going on about when should we go, and he wanted to be part of that, but he couldn't because he was injured.
Yes.
And again, he was sort of looking at it from a distance. And so it was quite an interesting kind of way of presenting it and presenting you. So you were kind of looking in on something that's happening.
You're being treated the same way in some ways.
Exactly.
I wish I could go with them.
The main aspect of it is there's a balance between faith and survival.
Yeah.
And Marcello is the main spiritual person on the flight, who keeps reminding everyone that you can't do this. You can't do this. And there's a scene where hunger is taking over, and every person that leaves the plane to go and eat says, sorry, Marcello, sorry, Marcello, sorry, Marcello. And Marcello breaks at one point where they are listening to a radio, and the radio says, we have stopped looking for them.
Yeah.
The search for the Uruguayan plane that crashed in the Andean mountain range with the rugby team Old Christians has come to an end.
Because there's no way they could have survived. We are going to resume the search
during
for bodies
the thaw.
During the thaw.
Yeah.
And Marcello takes it so badly because he's invested so much of his energy
in the fact that they will be saved.
That they will be saved and that they shouldn't do this. And he says, I feel bad because I've been stopping you from surviving. So I grant you now that if I die, you can feed on me.
Yeah.
I was wrong.
begged you to wait to be rescued for nothing.
There's lots of that in the
Yeah.
movie. There's lots of people who are close to death saying, I give you permission to eat me if you need to eat me. And it's really hard to see that.
Yeah.
And I know we're looking at like actors here.
But it happened.
It happens.
Maybe they're for our families. Or for other people who are remembering us now.
Exactly.
That's the thing.
That's, you know.
And that's the thing with the movie in itself is, you know, I was watching it and I'm thinking, wow, they do so much with such a small set because, you know, they keep you engaged. You know, they're just in a plane and they do so much. And then I think it was real. It happened.
Yeah.
You know, all of these moments that happened, they actually happened. And it's not a movie. It's a real thing that happened. So the avalanche, all of these things, all these moments that happened, you know, it was real. And that's why it's so shocking because they had so much that they had to deal with. And I think it felt like every time they'd reached sort of like a balance, they'd reached an equilibrium, you know, they'd survived the crash.
So let's make a room inside the plane. Let's take out all the seats so we can all fit in there.
They had sort of insulated the plane.
Yeah.
They had gone through all of the luggage and found layers of clothing. So in the evenings, they would sit there and they would just engage with each
They
other.
were riffing on each
Yeah.
other.
We can barely fit 27 of us, but that's all right. While we're all cramped in here, up in the presidential suite, they're fine.
And so there was
Yeah.
suddenly there was this sort of equilibrium where they had sort of settled. They were feeding, you know, and then the avalanche happens, and then it tilts things again.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, really, to feel that there was an element of comfort at one point.
Yes.
You know?
Where they're all sitting together, they're coming up with rhymes.
Because your rhyme was all talk. Tell me, why don't you get up and go out for a quick walk?
Yes.
Rhyming stories. And it was a kind of a lift in the film. You thought, okay,
Yeah.
they you know, there is survival here. This isn't, you know, and then you hear that,
Yeah, everything
you know,
starts to
what is
shake.
this? What is this? And then there's two avalanches, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's this initial avalanche which hits the plane. They're all buried and they're fighting to get up. And one of the characters, he evokes this awful sensation where he knows that his wife or his sister, I can't remember, I think it's his wife, is below him in the snow. And he, in order for him to rescue her, he has to get out of the snow to get to her. But in order to do that, his foot is on her chest in the snow. So he has to make that decision. Do I stay here or do I get myself out, potentially pushing the air out of her? And of course, that's what he has to do. And then, of course, she's dead. So all of them are carrying these weights of pressure
for their own
survival. And so you can imagine after this event what these people went through, the survivors, the guilt, the survivors' guilt they go through. And then, of course, they were also very much polarized by people when they got back as well.
Of course.
Because the religious aspect of it was like, how could you eat?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, you know, when you're watching the movie, it's very, very easy when you're sitting there eating a bag of chips and you've got food just like you can just easily access. And, you know, it's...
Where were my chips?
It's very hard. It's hard. You would naturally just say, well, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
But nobody knows until you're in a situation like that how you would respond.
No idea
in
at
a
all.
situation. And I think, and that's the thing with this movie, it does make you sort of question all of these things.
Yeah.
One other thing with the avalanche is the second avalanche.
Yeah.
When they all start coming out of the snow, there's a lot of disorientation. And I don't know if you noticed, but the camera is really, really close to the faces. And it's kind of like a fisheye lens.
Yes.
So it's very
distortion.
centered. It's very centered to this part of the face. But everything is very sort of pulled either side. And they're kind of sitting there going like this. And it really feels this disorientation, this, oh my goodness, this panic, this... It's
I've got that written here.
And the colour is really dilated as well. It's a bit more black and white. Which really emphasises that.
I put literally here close camera distortion. I've got written here because it really
stood out because 1 minute, you know, you're all in colour. I mean, it was such a contrast. But I mean, that's what it was. You know, as we said, they were sitting there doing poems and things rhymes and things to each other. And then the next minute, it's like, what on earth has just happened? And having such a contrast in the film look emphasises that for the viewer. So there was several different searches.
They went out on several searches to try and locate other parts of the plane because obviously the plane's broken apart. They know that there's stuff in the tail. They know there's a radio transmitter in the tail. And there's a number of cases where they go out and they fail because, you know, the cold gets to them at night.
Check the ice off my back!
But also, they find bodies as well, which again lists.
They list that particular person.
It makes you wonder if they did find everybody, or if it's just a case so that they can put that up on the screen.
Oh, maybe.
You know, because that may have not necessarily happened, but in order to at least have the names so that you had the full list of names.
Yeah, that's possibly they added it into the narrative a little bit. But in this film, they find the tail part of the plane.
We found bottles of rum, cigarettes.
One of them comes back and reports back that they found chocolate and clothing and batteries. And so from a moment, things have lifted a little bit. Then they start to work on this on the radio.
We're the Uruguayans who crash landed in the Andes. Can you hear me?
And then it shorts the plane or something. It's a complete disaster. So nothing is going right for them. It's just this. And then this decision is made that they need to start moving. They need to move out.
They said to look for us. Those morons who flew right over and didn't see us.
Well, because they hear that the search is not going to happen, and how on earth do you survive so long? So you have to take things into your own hands.
We're moving into December.
At this point. In some ways, them finding that radio is a real curse because, yes, it keeps you in a little link to the outside. You can hear life on the outside, motivational-wise. That must have been so good to hear music or something. But then when you hear some news like that, the amount that it would have put on people, the morale must have just gone boof straight down. You know,
I think also though, a counter to that almost, if you're listening to the radio and you're hearing jolly music and you're hearing other things going on in the world and stuff, you realise that you're actually a very small part of it, and people lose interest incredibly fast. And there might have been an aspect of where people are like, oh, they've already forgotten about us. It's like the news story's moved on.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I don't know how comforting a radio would be at that point.
No, absolutely.
The local Air Force has specially equipped a C-47 aircraft to resume the search in the Andean mountain range.
One thing that is funny as a viewer, because you start to feel how they probably felt, in that when it was dark, when it was windy and the snow was all being blown around, and they'd go out and it was all grey, and you could feel the cold.
He trains every day obsessed with one idea. Beyond that mountain lie the green valleys of Chile.
And I mean, I can't even imagine being so cold all the time.
That's how we spent the night.
Nobody fall asleep, you'll freeze to death!
But it got to the point whenever the sun would start to rise or there would be a sunny day, the sun was so golden in the way that they must have done like a colour thing on the sun, but it felt so warm.
Yeah, the heat.
And it was just, you wanted to get out into that sun yourself when you were watching it.
Yeah.
Something so small that you just take for granted became something that you could feel just so how they
Is
felt.
it the scene
so
on the
happy.
mountain? Was it that scene on the mountain where they've had that night where they're just? And
There's many moments,
notes,
and there's many moments in this movie. I mean, I think even when they're just sitting in the plane, and then it comes through the window, and you kind of get a glimpse, or when they're just standing outside of the plane and they're just leaning, and you can feel the sun. It's something that you just take for granted. It's not a possession. It's there for everyone.
Yeah.
And it means so much to them.
Yeah, yeah.
It really, really helps their spirits.
Yeah.
We made it.
And I think as a viewer, you start to feel that. I certainly started to feel that when I saw the sun.
You were craving the daylight.
Yeah. Thank goodness the sun's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're going through so much, and it's just, it's horrific. They said that when are we leaving? And I think after 2 months they decided to leave. There is a scene where they're all sitting just doing bird song. And it's a really light moment where they're all just sort of making bird noises, which I thought was really, really lovely. And then you had Numa coming back and giving permission to Nando that he can be eaten.
And it makes me so happy to know that you guys are gonna make it.
Which I think is then the shift in the movie where they suddenly go, okay, we need to move. People are just dying.
Yeah, and I mean, you know that up to this point, Nando is the one person. I mean, he's lost his sister and he lost his mother on the plane.
Yeah,
and he's just like, I need to get out of here. And he's been training.
Yeah.
He'd been training, whatever the weather, had been out there and they'd been watching him walk up and down, back and forth. He just was ready. He wanted to go.
Yeah. And they'd prepped like this sleeping bag, hadn't they?
Yes, because in the tail of the plane, they found this insulation that had been around the batteries and things.
Yeah, it's insulation and waterproof
stuff.
It's waterproof. We can use it, yeah? It was covering some pipes.
So they decide to make a big sleeping bag.
Yeah.
And they're like, right, we can be on the move now and sleep in this.
Yes.
And so that's what they decide to do.
So 3 of them start off.
Yeah.
And then 2 of them continue. 1 of them has to turn around, and I can't remember why.
So when they reach the top of the first mountain that's near them, they look and see the landscape and realise that it's just this up and down. And so they say, well, it's going to probably take about 10 days.
I'm not going back. The Andes have to end at some point. The snow, too.
It's the food.
And it's the food.
Yes.
So one of them says, right, they decide one of them goes back and they've got enough food, because I think it was 6 days, but if it's just 2 of them, it would have been
12 days
or something like that.
Nando and Roberto went on, heading west.
I did find that the actual travel to actually go and find someone and go across this mountain range, it happened very fast. It was done in a montage. I mean, it was beautiful shot.
Yeah.
The way they shot it was loads of aerial shots. I mean, the way they were walking
just
across.
the size and the scale of everything.
Yeah.
But contrary to what you were thinking, when I was looking at it, I was thinking that they'd given up on the fact that they were going to get to,
Chile
or wherever, to people.
Yeah.
And it got to a point, I think, where they were just walking to walk.
Yeah.
Because this scene they looked out on, it was peak after peak after peak after peak as far as the eye could see. And that realization, they had that conversation on the top of the mountain, and they were like going, well, should we go back? And so, well, why should we go back? What's the point in going back? We've come so far, we just carry on.
Yeah.
And it was almost like a peace.
What do you want to do? Come and walk with me?
A peace that they were going to just walk until they couldn't walk anymore.
Yeah,
and that's it.
There's a moment where you really get the sense of the thaw happening and the progression that they're making, because they're at a camp. They're at camp one night, and one of them sort of takes the food, and you can see him smelling it, and you're thinking, is it going off or something? And then he's ill.
Vomiting, yeah.
And so you think, oh, okay, maybe they're in a warmer climate suddenly.
Yeah.
And so there is that. I mean, it's a bad thing to happen, but I mean, I love it when they're drinking the water and having a quick wash
in the stream.
And one of them looks up and sees a lizard, and he's like, "Oh my God, there's a lizard! There's a."
Roberto.
He points to the other guy, and the other guy's like looking at a man on a horse.
Yes,
and it's just like, oh my God!
Just out of nowhere, suddenly there's civilization.
Yeah. The first clue that they are, starting to reach sort of areas where there would be life is you hear life because you hear birds.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to hear bird song, which you've not heard before unless it's artificial, it's made by them. So as they're starting to come down the mountain and the snow is disappearing, there's a stream, but also it all becomes quite rocky. And then you hear the bird song and you're thinking, okay, we're getting somewhere.
Yeah. And it was just really sudden though when one of them looks up and then there's like a guy on a mounted horse and you're like,
Hey, help us, please! Help! We've come from a plane that crashed in the mountain!
It's such a lift. It's like, oh gosh,
and that meal. I mean, when they were eating the food, it's
funny though that even when they were eating that food, though, there was a real sadness because I was thinking that it's such a short space of time between eating food and eating other stuff.
Yes. And when he buries, he actually, he looks at it and he's like, you've helped. When he looks at it, it's like, you helped me survive.
Yeah.
You've helped me survive. I'm not just going to throw you in the river.
Yes.
Like he actually then buries it and acknowledges it that's
sustained
that's a person or that's people.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a real nod to the fact that they've helped them.
Yeah. Yeah. That was lovely.
That actually did get me in the throat.
Yeah. It's that acceptance and that sort of thanks. Yeah. One of the characters, I can't remember who it was, but the mother came over and was hugging her son and she goes, "Oh, it's a miracle, it's a miracle." And he just says, "What miracle, Mom? Yeah. What's a miracle about this, really?" Because you didn't know what's happened and what they've gone through in order to survive.
Yeah.
There's nothing miraculous about it.
This
is a miracle.
What miracle, Mom?
I mean, when the helicopter goes up to rescue the remaining survivors, there's this big rush. They're all trying to look their best. And people are grabbing items from the plane, but it's not their own personal items that they took with them. It's like the exit sign and things and something that they may have used. Or there was a piece of metal that somebody putting in their bag, and I just thought, I wonder what they had used that. Obviously, it's something that they had used every day or during it that kept them sane or kept them alive. And in my head, I was thinking, would I have wanted to keep something that would remind me of something?
Yeah.
But what's quite interesting is it happens so quick. The helicopters land and they all rush to get onto these helicopters. And you've got all of this movement and commotion and sound and of the helicopters, and there's the music, and this one guy, he's got all of the personal items like the chains and things that have been taken off of people who had passed, and he's like, I'm taking this. This has to come.
Bravo! No! I'm not going without the luggage! No! Get in!
And he gets on the plane. And the last person gets on the plane and there's all this noise and then the door shuts and it's silence. And he's like looking out the window, and again, you've got this separation of something that was and now their new reality.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was weird. It felt sad. Suddenly, you're looking at that fuselage, and you're going around it, and there's like a shirt hanging, and there's ice, the ice is dripping, and it's kind of like there's a moment where you're kind of looking at it as if it's home.
It's their world. It was their world.
And it was their home, and it kept them safe.
Yeah.
And yes, it was a horrible thing. People died there.
Yeah.
But for a moment, it was their home. And it was their home for quite a long time. And when one of them is just looking and looking at that from a separate, you could imagine that it must have been quite difficult to separate yourself from that, even though you really wanted to get on that plane. You didn't want to be part. No. But there is that attachment.
Well, it sustained them, didn't it? Some of them, but it was their home. It was their base. It was their. I mean, other films have used that as well.
Yeah.
Like Castaway did it, where he's leaving the island and there's that soft music and it's drifting into the fog, and that there's a sadness because that's sustained his life for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
But that's another movie. But
I mean, I really felt it,
yeah.
and what I also liked is that it didn't just end there. It did focus on the post-traumatic stress disorder that some of them all of them would feel. Yeah. I mean, one person was shaking, and just the fact that the bodies had changed so much. I mean, how skinny they were, and all of that. And I mean, the lovely shot at the end where they're all in their hospital beds and they're all still wanting to be together. For comfort.
Yeah.
And it focused on that aspect, and it didn't just be like, and they survived and that's because life goes on.
But they've had this shared experience that no one else will understand.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's powerful. It's a powerful film.
Yeah.
Really, really quite something to watch. And so okay, that was a heavy watch.
Yeah.
But what did you feel about this movie? Obviously, I mean,
I felt a lot about this movie. Yeah, but I'm gonna score this high though. I think I might put it as a 9.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's essential watch, I think.
Yeah.
It's one of those films that I think that when you're presented with it, you're like, oh, I don't know if I can face that.
Yeah.
And it is one of those films that you're like, you've got to prepare yourself for. But ultimately, it's so important to watch it, just to understand, like, overcoming adversity and the power of, survival. And, just how things change,
like the determination.
Dime,
exactly.
And the lottery of life,
Yeah.
It's fascinating. I would give it a 9 as well. So I know we didn't say it before, but if you could like and subscribe this video, that would be amazing. And we hope you enjoyed our chit chat today.
Yeah, and please feel free to write some comments.
Yes.
Let us know your thoughts on this film.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll see you on the next one.
You take care. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.